As portable lithium battery power stations continue to grow in popularity, we're seeing a steady flow of new models coming onto the market. Recently, Bluetti released their EB3A model power station in Australia, and they sent me one along with a 120 watt solar panel to review. At 268 watt hours of capacity, or about 12 amp hours if you prefer to think in amps, the EB3A is the entry level in the Bluetti range. It's a compact, lightweight and affordable way to add a 240 volt power system with 12 volts DC and USB outlets to your travel kit. The portable solar panel only takes a minute to set up and recharges the EB3A even while it's busy powering your devices. The internal battery in the EB3A is a lithium iron phosphate, and it's got a very long lifespan. In fact, it can be cycled up to 2,500 times while retaining 80% of its original capacity. Now, to put that in perspective, it basically means you can recharge the unit every day for over 6 years, and you'll still have 80% of its new capacity left. Have a look in the front here. We've got a single 240 volt outlet, which has got a 600 watt capacity, and you turn that on and off with this button here. We've also got a strip of USBs. We've got two USB-A ports, which have a 3 amp capacity, meaning that they'll comfortably recharge iPads and other tablets and things like that. And we've got a 100 watt USB-C port, which is where you could recharge modern laptops or iPads, things like that use USB charging. It's got a traditional cigarette lighter socket, which has got a 12 volt 10 amp capacity, which is basically the same as what's coming out of the cigarette lighter socket in your car. And it's got these two DC 5521 outlets, which are for more specialized equipment like CPAP machines and things like that. And it also has a wireless charging dock on top, so you can sit your phone on top and just charge it up. As easy as that. Now, the recharging all happens on the front as well. You've got your AC in port here, and I'll put it on charge in a second, show you how that works. And you've also got your DC in, which is where you plug in your solar panels or your charging from your cigarette lighter. And as if we didn't have enough, we've also got a light that you can turn on and off, and it has various different brightnesses, and it can even do an SOS. How about that, eh? So if you're in trouble and you get stranded, you can use it to send a distress signal. Very handy. Now, the unit's actually got a handle which sits flush on the top there. You can see it folds into the top of the case like that, which is great, and makes it very easy to carry it. It actually reminds me of like a ghetto blaster from the 80s. If I was back as a teenager in the 80s, and you handed me this, I'd been looking for where you put the cassette in it and crank up the volume. But unfortunately, this one doesn't play music, but it does do a lot of other things. So now it weighs in at just under 5 kilos, about 4.7 kilos. In fact, let's put it on the scales here and find out for sure. Now let's just plug the charging cable in here so we can get some AC power going. And I'll just wake it up. Now, if you just push either of these power buttons just quickly, it'll actually wake up the display. The display doesn't stay on very long. I found it sort of maybe about 20 seconds, and then it switches off for a power saving mode. But a quick press of one of those buttons brings it back on again. If you push those buttons for about 2 seconds, then it turns that panel on or off completely. Now these, I've got them on now, but you would ordinarily not have them on unless you're actually running something, because they will slowly drain out the battery even if there's nothing running on them. The 240 volt outlet will give you 600 watts of sine wave power. Now, sine wave means it's clean. It's going to give you a consistent, smooth power outlet, which makes it ideal for recharging laptops, camera batteries, phones, things like that, stuff that really needs a good clean power supply. Then you'll get 600 watts of clean power out of it. Now, by comparison, a cheap generator that you might pick up for a couple of $100 won't give you that power. If it doesn't say it specifically delivers pure sine wave power, then you can rest assured that it doesn't. Now they're fine for running devices like halogen lights or stuff like that, which can have a variation of power without affecting them. But for electronic devices, you really need pure sine wave power, and you're going to get 600 watts out of this. Now that makes it, 600 watts is not a huge amount, but it's enough for all of your smaller devices. Laptops, drone battery chargers, camera battery chargers, phone battery chargers, a small fridge, a mini rice cooker, LED lights, and even a fan. I'll actually show you. I've got a pedestal fan here, and I'll show you that works as well. So, as much as you're not going to use it for powering a kettle or a toaster or an induction hot plate or an air conditioner, for a lot of people, those are not things that they really need in their camp. They're traveling light, and it's just all the other smaller devices is what they want to power up. So that may well be enough power for you to do that. Now you can plug a power board in here and get more outlets, but as long as the total power draw is not more than 600 watts. Now after I've told you a bit more about it, I'm going to set up, we're going to plug in a bunch of devices and actually see it in action, but I'm just giving you a quick overview at this stage. Now UPS mode, UPS is uninterruptible power supply, and that means that if I plug something into it now, like a 240 volt device, then that 240 volt device will be running basically from the AC power that's coming in. It's not drawing any power out of the battery, and in fact if the battery in the system wasn't full, it would be recharging it as well in the background. And that's very handy, because if you're not out on a camping trip, if you've got this in the cupboard at home, you can have it sitting next to your modem, for example, and you can have your modem plugged into it, and you can have this plugged into the wall. It's going to keep the battery in this topped up, and it means if you have a power failure at home, your modem will keep running. Pretty good chance your internet will keep going. Most of the time the internet supply into your house has got its own backup power supply, and is not necessarily at the mercy of your mains power that's powering your house. So that's a handy little feature, and what will happen is basically if the mains goes off, the battery in here will immediately switch on, keep your modem running or your laptop or whatever you've got plugged into it, and then when the mains power comes back on, the battery in here will just recharge up to 100%. So it's a good idea, because you're going to keep those devices going, but also you're going to keep this at 100% capacity on standby, ready to be used anytime you need it. All right, now that we're fully charged, let's move over to the bench there, and we'll start plugging some things in. So put that so you can see it. Now I'm going to stick a power board on here just so we get a few more outlets. Excuse the cockatoos, it's that time of day when they all go crazy out there, and if I wait for them to be quiet, I'll be waiting all day. So we're just going to keep going regardless. So I'm just going to plug my laptop in there and get that charging, and you'll see it starts to draw some power there. I've got a monitor set up here so I can actually see what you can see, so I can make sure that you're getting a proper view. Get my GoPro recharging, and I'm also going to recharge my drone battery. I went out today and did some drone filming and flattened one battery. It's charging now. There. Oh, the display. I wish the display would stay on a bit longer. That would be a handy feature. So what are we drawing at the moment? We've got about 30 watts coming out, not very much. I'll get my iPad going there as well. This is actually something I think is quite handy. It will actually power a fan. Now this is a way bigger fan than you're likely to take camping, but fans don't use a huge amount of power, as I discovered while I was testing this. So if you're out camping, you just got a small fan in your in your rooftop tent, or if you sleep in your car or whatever, then that can make the difference between a miserable night and quite a comfortable night. And it will actually power a fan. Now imagine you've got some LED lights around your camp. This is just a LED strip light, runs on 240 volts. So we've got that. Oh, they flash as well, that's a bonus. So I can get my phone charging on the top there. This is all the sort of stuff you're going to use in a camp. Now it's none of the big stuff. It's not an induction cooktop, and it's not an air conditioner or a microwave or a kettle or a toaster, which would be too much for this. But to be honest, a lot of people don't even use that stuff when they go camping. I've only recently started using an induction cooktop, and look, it's great, but I could quite easily live with a the little $20 butane gas stove. Also does the job. So this is quite a gutsy little unit. And where's that button there? There it is. So what are we drawing there at the moment? We're drawing about 100 watts. Now what would at the moment it would last about 2.5 hours with all this going on all at the same time. Now if you had a small fridge, obviously it's not going to run a big camping fridge, but a smaller one would probably keep that going for for hours. And the best part is you can keep the power trickling in. If you've got a solar panel like this one, or permanently mounted on your roof, you can keep the power coming in while the power's coming out. So all of it can be happening simultaneously. It's not a case of recharge it and then take it off the charging and then use it. It can be all happening all at once. So I went for a drive out in the sticks today to actually just try it out in the real world, and I was able to get up to about 70 watts of power out of a 120 watt panel, bearing in mind that it's August, it's the middle of winter here in Melbourne, and it was very patchy clouds, an occasional bit of blue sky, light coming through the trees. Certainly far from an ideal situation, but even with the 120 watt panel giving 60 or 70 watts once the sun came through the clouds, that was more than I was using to keep my laptop charged up and to charge a drone battery and my phone on the top there. So it's a pretty effective little unit for all of the smaller devices that you're likely to use when you go camping. Now there's a number of different ways of recharging the EB3A. We've already seen the AC power option, which is with the AC cable that actually comes with it. Now in standard mode it'll recharge at up to 268 watts, which means it'll go from empty to full in about 1.5 to 2 hours. Now if you're in a hurry, you can use the app to actually increase that up to 330 watts, so they call that turbo mode, and it will recharge faster in sort of 1 to 1.5 hours. But they don't recommend you use that unless you really need to, because if you do it all the time, it's going to reduce the lifespan of the battery. It's better to do it a little bit slower and sort of preserve the life of the battery. You can charge with up to 200 watts of solar power. Now Bluetti has a number of solar panels in their range. This is the 120 watt version. They've got a 120 and a 200 and a 330 watt option, but you can get up to 200 watts of solar power coming in, and you can actually combine the two. You can have solar and AC power at the same time. So if you've got solar available, then combine the two and you can get up to 430 watts of capacity coming in. So the solar actually adds on top of the AC power and gives you very fast charging. You'd have it recharged in about an hour at that rate. So that's a good option. You can recharge it with a generator. If you've got a petrol powered generator, you can use the 240 volt outlet out of that to recharge it. And you can also recharge with the DC outlet, the cigarette lighter socket in your car. Now you will need to buy a separate cable that's available off the website, and that'll plug into the cigarette lighter socket in your car, and it will go into the DC port in here. Now bear in mind that'll only draw about 100 watts, so it's quite a slow charging. At the end of the day, it's not a massive battery. It'll still recharge it in a few hours. But it's limited to 100 watts capacity, which is just a limitation on cigarette lighter sockets in your car. Now they've also got an app, and I'll give you a quick demo of how that works here. I'll just get my screen recording so you can see what I'm doing here. Now the app's quite straightforward. It uses Bluetooth, so as long as you're within sort of 5 to 10 meters of the box, you'll actually be able to connect to it. You just connect it, and then you've got a readout showing you the power that's coming in from solar, the power that's coming in from the mains, how much the capacity of the battery is, and what's being used. So at the moment it's telling me we've got 61 watts of AC power and 9 watts of DC power out through the USB ports. You can turn the AC and the DC power panels on and off in the app here, and you can also adjust other settings. You can turn echo mode on and off. At the moment I've got echo set to 1 hour, which means that after 1 hour of no activity, these power panels, the 240 volt and the 12 volt DC panels, will switch off, and you can even turn the light on and off. So pretty handy. You can adjust the brightness, put it up on high there. just like that, and you can put on SOS. There we go. So very handy. I'm not really sure how I would use that, but it's handy to know it's there. Okay, so anyway, well, let's turn the light off, shall we? Now you can also update the firmware of the unit through the app here. It'll download it off the internet and then send it over to the unit. Now you've got this charging mode here. At the moment it's set to standard. This is the 268 watts of power, AC power coming in. I mentioned before about the fact that you've got turbo mode, and that is where you can increase the AC power up to 330 watts, and that's the power in, and that will charge it faster, but you don't want to do it too often because it will wear out the battery faster. It's also got silent mode, which means it'll actually charge it slower and avoid using the fan, so that it's quiet. You know, if you've got a quiet camp set up and your kids are asleep in the camper or whatever, you know, you might want to use that. So that's how the app works. So with a retail price of around $629, the EB3A really is quite an affordable entry-level portable power system that's going to give you 240 volts available that'll recharge most of your smaller devices, and probably enough power to get you through the evening and into the next day, when you can then keep it topped up with a solar panel system like this, or charge it from the car as you're driving to your next camp. Now, one of the things I really love about it is that it's light. It's less than 5 kilos. It's very easy to move around. You can move it to the front and the back of the car. You can move it in your caravan. You can move it in your tent. If you've got a rooftop tent, you can just easily take it up there and keep your iPad and your phones topped up overnight. Power the light that you've got up there, stuff like that. So it's very portable, and I think that's a very good feature. The temptation these days is to get big and huge, and you lose portability, and I'm all about traveling light these days. It's kind of my thing. So any way of getting the sort of capacity, the range of outlets you've got here in a very lightweight package, I think is a win. Right guys, hopefully that's given you a pretty good insight into this unit here. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to go and find out more about it and order your own. You can also check out the solar panels, which they've got on the website. They are available actually as a kit, as a set, and you get a better price if you buy the two together. Thanks for joining me in this video. Feel free to ask any questions or leave any comments below, and please give this video a like. And if you want to see more from me, then hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.